What's good, everyone? It's your boy Sales, back again with another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about legendary heroes that have been in the game with us for quite some time now. Ever since we've been introduced to our first legendary hero, Fjorm, way back in the beginning of Book 2, we've been introduced to pretty much a new legendary hero every single month. And as of the time that I'm recording this video, we have a total of 6 legendary heroes you can choose from. So today I want to talk to you about who I believe are the best legendary heroes you can take to battle with you, ranked from the worst to the best. But at the end of the day, I cannot stress this enough that this is purely my own personal opinion and how I believe that they perform not just in one setting, aka arena, but how they perform in grand hero battles, chain challenges, story mode, all that stuff. So if you happen to disagree with me, be sure to let me know in the comments which legendary hero you believe is the best. And I'm more interested in the why, not so much the hero's name, because that's what sparks discussions, and I'm really interested in starting a discussion here. With all the disclaimers out the way, let's get this show on the road.
Desist in your actions.
Coming in at last place has to be the barbecued sister of Fjorm, Gunthra. Oops, did I just spoil the story for someone? Come on, guys, who actually plays Fire Emblem Heroes for the story, right? Am I right? Oh god, the story is so bad. Make no mistake though, I am not saying that Gunthra is a bad legendary hero. In fact, she was actually my primary green hero on my Horse Emblem team for many months until the recently released Love and Balance Lena came to the game. But even so, I know just how powerful Gunthra can be. For one, if you take a look at her legendary tome, the Blizzard Tome, you'll see that it gives her +3 resistance, as well as acting as a reverse Blade Tome. And just in case no one is familiar with what a Blade Tome actually does, without going into too many details, they basically become more powerful depending on how many buffs that is applied to the unit. So inversely, the Blizzard Tome becomes more stronger the more debuffs you apply to your enemy. And Intelligent Systems did their hardest to base her entire kit around this debuffing strategy, which not only helps her, but it also helps out her team. Her exclusive B slot, Chilling Seal, applies -6 attack and speed to the unit with the lowest amount of defense on the opposing team, which, might I add, are 2 of the most important stats in the current metagame of Fire Emblem Heroes, not just for Arena, but just any type of content in general. This is not only extremely consistent, and it will allow Gunthra to always have some type of buff to her Blizzard Tome, but it also helps out her team immensely, as they'll be taking a lot less damage by either the damage reduction or they won't be able to double her enemies. I cannot tell you how many times my Camus has been able to take out opposing +10 Ninos thanks to this skill. But if you thought we were done there, oh no, this gets much deeper. In her A slot, she also has Fortress Resistance, which allows her to reliably run skills like Resistance to Defense Ploy and the Sacred Seal in C slot. This can allow Gunthra to debuff all the stats on a single enemy so long as all the conditions are met. That is insanity. However, Gunthra is last place for a reason. While she has amazing skills and a great legendary weapon, Gunthra herself isn't all that impressive. For starters, her base resistance stat is only 25, which is far below average what we consider a usable resistance stat. This is going to make it really difficult for her to use those debuffing skills and those ploys we were talking about earlier against magically defensive targets and overkilling units she probably would have killed anyway. Additionally, her offensive spread of 31-33, which is 31 attack, 33 speed, is okay. However, Gunthra is a hero that can be made or broken by the IVs that you get. We all know that we all get unlucky, that you're not going to get the perfect IVs every time. So if you get a minus attack, speed, or resistance Gunthra, she's going to be very underwhelming for you. And inversely, if you get one with a spoon in one of those areas, she's going to be an amazing hero for you. But I really can't really say a hero that's that dependent on IVs can be any higher on this list, which is really sad because if only her debuffing skills were more consistent and Chilling Seal like targeted based off her own stats versus her enemy stats, she would easily be one of the strongest legendary heroes, easily at least top 3 on this list.
Aim well and victory is assured.
Man, things are not looking good for the Win legendary heroes, are they? But, to be completely fair, Legendary Lyn has not been in the game for very long at all. So I could be selling her a little short here, but I'm doing my best to judge her as properly as I do have her and I've had time to play with her. For starters, it's worth mentioning that Lyn is our first ever colored archer. Oh god, not like that! That is not even close to what I was trying to say! Oh my! What I was trying to say is that up until this point, every archer has been assigned to a colorless category. Colorless units are units that kind of exist outside the weapon triangle, and as a result, they take on every fight they encounter equally, as so long as they don't have a Raven Tome. Lyn, however, is our first archer who has been included in the weapon triangle because she is a green unit. This comes with its own ups and downs, meaning that she can take on very powerful units like Reinhardt. However, she'll do very poorly against units like the Black Knight and Winter Tharja. So in that regard, she's a significantly weaker nuker than her colorless counterparts. However, in the right circumstances, she can be vastly superior to her colorless friends. Things get only more interesting from here on out. Because she's the first green archer, she is immune to bow breakers, which, if you don't know, breaker skills are skills that negate follow-up attacks. So if I have a Roy who has 25 speed going up against an Ira with 47 speed, even though Ira has much more speed than Roy, then Ira cannot make a follow-up attack on Roy, and Roy in response can do a follow-up attack. These are how breaker skills work, and Lyn does not have that because there is no green bow breaker at the moment. They're all strictly for colorless bows. I kind of touched on this a little bit before, but like I said, because she's not colorless, Raven Tomes do not affect her unless it's a red Raven Tome. And be completely honest with yourself, outside of Leon, when is the last time you saw a red Raven Tome? Never, right? So pretty much she's never going to worry about a Raven Tome user ruining her day. And we haven't even taken into account her weapon yet. She swings with the legendary weapon Swift Mulligear, which pretty much allows her to, as long as she has more allies surrounding her than her enemies have surrounding them, then she gets +5 attack and speed. What this means is that if the requirements are met, then Lyn is going to be having 50 attack and 41 speed at neutral with no buffs and no type of A skills. Just let that sink in for a second, okay? Just let that sink in. And I don't particularly find this skill a high point in Lyn's kit, but because she comes with it, I have to address it. She also has the skill Laws of Decay, which is pretty much an Owl Tome effect, but with an extended radius. By this I mean that as long as she has more allies surrounding her in 2 spaces within her, and her opponent has less enemies surrounding them, then she gets +4 to all of her stats. Whoop-de-freaking-do. The reason I'm not so excited to talk about Laws of Decay is because it is pretty much a worse Fury in every sense of the word. By this I mean it's an enemy phase skill on a player phase unit. Just imagine like running Quick Riposte on Bridal Cordelia. So it is to your advantage to run Fury, tank on the enemy phase like Laws of Decay wants you to do, get knocked down into desperation range by the Fury knockback damage, go in on the player phase with +3 to all your stats, mind you, while Laws of Decay your +4 will not be active, and then just go in for the rest of the match. I do not understand why Laws of Decay exist. If you have found a use for this skill, please let me know in the comment section below, because I am genuinely curious why they even thought this was a good idea. Additionally, her stat spread is more comparable to Rebecca than any other archer, including her brave counterpart. And in my opinion, I do think that Rebecca is an underrated archer, but she's still no Bridal Cordelia, let's be real here. I think that if she had a stat spread that was more comparable to someone like Brave Lyn or even Bridal Cordelia, then Legendary Lyn would be an amazing unit. And even while her bow, in my opinion, is a lot less gimmicky and can be more controlled, even on maps like Grand Hero Battle maps, you can't really control where enemy reinforcements are going to spawn, which means that your weapon is constantly changing between this weapon that has Life and Death 3 built on it without the defense penalty and a silver bow. And that's really not too consistent when you think about it. I still do believe that Legendary Lyn is a pretty powerful legendary hero, but aside from her green typing, she's just another hero that relies heavily on Life and Death and Brave Bow or Fire Sweep bows. However, to appease the Lyn fanboys so I don't get roasted alive, I am just gonna be a guy here. I will admit that Lyn's damage dart, oh boy! And don't even get me started on that one voice clip line where she does a little heavy breathing, like, you can breathe on me any day, mommy. Still bottom tier trash waifu, don't add me.
You won't get past me!
Just barely missing out on top 3, we have our free-to-play goddess herself, Fjorm. Fjorm was the first ever legendary hero we received to introduce us to this new concept, and oh boy, they couldn't have picked a better poster girl. From being the centerpiece focus of Chapter 2 to being an absolute monster on the battlefield, Fjorm has truly lived up to the name of legendary hero. To hit the ground rolling, her weapon of choice is
Lecter, Lance of Ice!
The weapon itself is pretty much just a 16 might beat stick with Disencounter slapped on it, but we all know how valuable Disencounter is as a skill, so in my opinion it's a pretty good weapon. But things really get cool, you see what I did there? Because she's an ice legendary hero and her skill's made of ice. Everyone's a crit, I swear. Her special's Ice Mirror, okay? What Ice Mirror does is that any damage that she would have taken from a ranged foe, it reduces it by 30%, and all damage that she would have received as a result of that combat is sent right back at the opponent. I have found this skill particularly useful when an enemy procs their skill, and what would have killed her initially, she survives, and that sends the damage right back at the opponent and they die instead. That's pretty cool if you ask me. It's also worth noting that Fjorm is the only legendary hero that's in the weekly arena cycling system, because she's technically a part of the Asker trio. This makes Fjorm an exceptionally well arena unit, because not only is she a consistent bonus hero that you'll always have, but she'll also be boosting their speed by +3 of your other units, so long as they have a water blessing on them. And yes, the +3 stat boost that Fjorm gives does boost the ratings of your units, so in water seasons, as long as you're using Fjorm, you'll be scoring slightly higher than other seasons. However, oh man, I really hate saying however, Fjorm's offensive stat spread is not very good, being 30 attack and 31 speed, meaning she's not fast enough to double, and she's not nearly strong enough to one-shot units. This means that she's going to have to run QR in either her Sacred Seal slot or her B slot, and that really hurts in the B slot because she comes with Shield Pulse, which pretty much instantly makes Ice Mirror come online, and that would be really good to help with her survivability. However, the silver lining to this is that even though she won't be one-round KOing anyone, it's going to be very hard to one-shot her. And in Arena, surviving is just as important as one-round KOing. Because if you're not able to one-round KO your opponent, you're inviting your enemies to use skills like Wings of Mercy, which is amazing for defensive wins. And do I really need to explain how good she is for in-game content? You can literally go on YouTube and type in Bound Hero Battle Clears, and you'll see Fjorm on 75% of those teams. Make no mistake, the girl's amazing, but it's her overall balance in being a jack of all trades and master of none that's keeping her lower on the list. However, I don't think we could have asked for a better first legendary hero to introduce us to this new concept, and in my eyes, she will always be the most legendary hero of them all.
I am the wings of despair. I am the breath of ruin. I am the fell dragon Grima.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the top 3, and in number 3 we have my personal favorite legendary hero, female Grima. Wait, how exactly is Grima a hero? Didn't Grima, kill the entire future? Okay, let's not think about that. But personal bias aside, female Grima is objectively a very powerful unit. She's our first ever colorless dragon, and I want you to think about that for a second, okay? Just let that sink in. Because she's colorless, that means that she has no clear weaknesses, so you have to fight her in a fair fight no matter what, unless you, of course, bring a Falchion or Nagatome, but yeah, okay, you see, you get my point though. But on top of all that, she's a flying dragon, which means that she can be used on Flyer Emblem, Dragon Emblem, and the up-and-coming Mixed Emblem teams because her typing is just so good that she fits so well into Mixed Emblem teams. This is when we start getting into territory as to why female Grima took number 3 instead of Fjorm. While Fjorm's disencounter weapon is impressive and all, female Grima's breath also has disencounter built into it. However, it sacrifices 2 might for the ability to target the lower of the enemy's defense and res. This by far makes Expiration the superior weapon when we're comparing Fjorm and Grima. And yes, it's true that female Grima does have a relatively low attack stat. However, if you're always hitting into the lower of the enemy's defense and res, that kind of makes up for it, while Fjorm is always going to be hitting defense no matter what. Additionally, female Grima does have a pretty decent speed stat at 35, which means that she does have a lot more room to potentially double the enemy, meaning that she will make up for that attack stat way more than Fjorm because she can actually double people. And also, just like Fjorm, Grima also has a skill that makes her relatively good mixed bulk even better. Thank goodness Dragon's isn't as broken as it was in Awakening, but it's still pretty good in this game. It takes away her weakness to arrows, while also adding +4 defense and resistance as long as the enemy is attacking her. And I can tell you from personal experience that if you got the right buffs on Grima, it does not matter that she's a flyer. She's going to be taking hits from Brave Lyn, not getting quadded because she's fast enough to avoid quads, and then she's going to blow Brave Lyn to the next dimension. The whole theme with female Grima is simple yet effective. There's no gimmicks like Swift Mulligear or the Blizzard Tome on female Grima. All of her skills are very straightforward, and they work. However, it's her stat line is kind of like Fjorm and she suffers from the jack-of-all-trades syndrome. But the reason I ranked her above Fjorm is because Fjorm is an infantry unit, which means that she's pretty much locked to Mixed Emblem teams if you want to give her quote-unquote emblem buffs. But Fjorm cannot be on Flyer teams. Fjorm cannot be on Dragon teams. I mean, she can, she just won't benefit from them, which is why I'm ranking female Grima above that. And it also helps that if she's at +10, female Grima is an extremely hard unit to kill. I will tell you that from experience. However, I look at these heroes at +1, not +10. So at +1, offensively, Alencia just flat out outclasses her. She can't compete with quadding. And defensively, Alencia is an absolute monster. So unless you just are scared of arrows, there really is no reason to use Legendary Grima above those 2 units. But like I said though, she is my favorite legendary hero to use because it's like a flying infantry to me, and I just love that so much. Robin, you may be complete garbage, but your dragon incarnate is so freaking cool.
As long as I'm here, I won't let you die. There's too much riding on your survival. Stay close.
In second place, we have Vanguard Ike. Woohoo! Ike's number 2. If it wasn't made obvious by now, I do not like Ike. Hashtag we spike Ike, hashtag boys are born. But personal bias aside, I cannot deny that he is a complete monster on the battlefield, and arguably one of the not only best legendary heroes in the game, but one of the best sword heroes, period. And you cannot ignore this man because literally everyone has one. Well, unless you're a person of culture and killed him off rewarding breath, like I did. If it has never been introduced in this game, this is probably where Fjorm would have been, but as I like to call him, he's pretty much power crept Fjorm. By this, I mean that he can do literally everything that Fjorm can do, just 10 times better. The only real drawback is that he uses a sword and Fjorm wields a lance. And that's like the only advantage he has over Ike. But for starters, let's look at his weapon, the Ragnall, which is a generic 16 might beat stick with distant counter slapped onto it. Simple, straightforward, and to the point. However, when you take a look at his special Radiant Aether, you'll see that Aether has a lower cooldown to ensure that Ike will always proc his special as many times as he can in one single fight. This allows Ike to constantly regain health while striking his targets with their defenses halved, turning him into an absolute killing machine. This is pretty much all Ike has to his name in terms of special skills. Simple yet effective has been the recurring theme for these heroes on the higher part of this list. What really saves Ike and pushes him over the edge though is the combination of Warding Breath and Radiant Aether. In case you aren't aware on how broken breath skills are, essentially they boost your defense or resistance depending on the skill and accelerate your special cooldown by 1. So when Warding Breath is paired with Radiant Aether, you have yourself a unit that's able to proc Aether in pretty much every fight. When you couple this with Ike's amazing defense and attack, on top of Warding Breath boosting his resistance, he becomes a pretty powerful juggernaut that not only slaughters everything in his path, but heals himself right back up to full while doing so. The only real drawback I can think of when trying to say anything bad about Vanguard Ike is that he's a sword hero. And these days we have heroes like Ira, Ryomi, Ares, Lucina, Valencia, Reinhardt. You get the picture. There's no real shortage of good sword heroes. Like, literally, if Ike were the same exact hero with the same skills and stats, but on a lance or axe, he would easily be number 1 on this list. But it's purely because he's in the sword category that he's only number 2.
No one can stop me!
Call it bias because I don't like Ike, or call it favoritism because I really love Ephraim. But I think that we can all agree that Legendary Ephraim is arguably one of the strongest legendary heroes we have ever gotten. But before I try to justify his spot at number 1, let's just look at his base kit, shall we? His weapon of choice is the Flame Sigmund, which gives him +3 attack, making this lance essentially a 19 might legendary weapon, similar to Brave Roy's, which is pretty impressive in itself. When you pair this with Legendary Ephraim's base 36 attack, you have a unit that has 55 attack at neutral. Keep that in mind. But this thing is much more than a beat stick. The second effect makes it so that Ephraim gets a guaranteed follow-up attack so long as he's always in a situation where he's outnumbered by his opponents. Let's stop and take a second to analyze that for a second. So not even considering IVs, Ephraim has 55 attack, right? Well, for the sake of argument purposes, let's give him Death Blow in the A slot. This means that when he's initiating, he's going to have 61 attack on top of his guaranteed follow-up attack. Unlike other units that I put on this list, this is actually an effect that's really easy to pull off, especially for a horse unit. In a lot of cases, there are more situations in Arena and just GHBs in general where you're going to have to break off from your team versus sticking in the ball like Swift Mulligan or something would like you to do. It's because of these situations that occur so frequently in Fire Emblem Heroes in any type of game, I find this effect consistent enough to be considered not a gimmick, and something that you will more than likely be proccing more than once by accident. Additionally, this follow-up attack does indeed stack with Desperation. So once you get injured enough in the fight, you can pretty much poke an enemy twice in succession, making it so that if they don't die, you're still going to leave one heck of a bruise. And have we addressed the fact this man is on a horse? We're just going to forget that little fact? So we slap on another +6 attack because horse buffs, and he's at 67 attack at neutral IVs. Plus attack, that's a whopping 70 attack with the ability to strike twice in a row. So you just throw something on like Heavy Blade, and you just go into town with specials. Like, what? And also, much like Ike, he does still have the ability to heal himself like Ike can do for the purposes of GHBs and in-game content. He has the exclusive B slot, which is Solar Brace, which is pretty much so that every time a special procs, you're healed by 30% of the damage that's dealt. And as we just discussed, this man can have up to 70 attack. A lot of people like to stack this with Luna to create what they call mini Aether, or so you can stack it with other healing specials like Noontime and Soul to make it so that he can heal even more and pretty much rival the amount that Ike gets back with Radiant Aether. I'm not gonna lie, picking between Ephraim and Ike for the #1 slot was a very hard choice to make. They both can heal with Solar Brace and Radiant Aether respectively. They both can double, albeit through different means to make up for their both lackluster speed stats, but they both can do it. Ike has built-in disencounter, but Ephraim has access to Horse Emblem buffs. There are so many things that both these heroes have going for them, but I ultimately went with Ephraim because, like I said before, with Ike we have no shortage of amazing sword heroes. Ike's role may be impressive for a base kit, but with proper SI and the right units, there are a lot of sword heroes who can pretty much do exactly what Ike does, and in some cases even better. Ephraim, however, is truly one of a kind. There is no other Lance Cavalier or just Lance unit in general that can even come close to mimicking Ephraim's best sets. He's truly in a league of his own, and that enough was a deciding factor for me. So by a very small margin, mind you, in my opinion, I do believe that Legendary Ephraim is the strongest legendary hero we currently have in Fire Emblem Heroes.